work session agenda between the school and town. Anyone have any public input? Go ahead and listen.
No public input?
No,
Well,
I
Yeah.
said.
calm down.
I said, is there any public input?
Yeah.
Ralph,
I'm up first?
well, you.
Okay. I want to let the school board know that if you take a look at the warrant article that was passed in March, and I can't turn off my computer book, I just tried to get into your guest Wi-Fi, and I can't get into your guest Wi-Fi, it won't allow me through. But the warrant article states that you'll meet quarterly, the SAU school board, the Littleton Town Selectmen, and the School Town Budget Committee will meet quarterly. That's what the warrant article calls for. Back when you started these meetings, 3 meetings ago, that should have been enforced with the entire school board, the entire budget committee, the entire selectmen, because that's the way the warrant article reads. That I believe that the last few meetings you guys have really been against the wishes of the town taxpayers. The town taxpayers specifically said in the warrant article that the full committees will meet in the full town selectmen. And I just want to get that out, that these are not work meetings. These are full budget committee meetings, according to the warrant article. And you have not had one budget committee meeting yet, according to the warrant article. I just want to make the school board aware that they're in violation of what the town taxpayers requested.
Comment. The school should make a comment on this particular thing, not the town.
It's a school board.
It's a school
It's a
board.
school board warrant article.
You guys are gonna make
The
it.
school board
That
is
was a
supposed to meet with the
petition,
entire
that was a
budget committee.
petition warrant article,
Yes.
and as far as I know, it is non-binding on all of those parties. We have set up some meetings, and yes, we posted this one, and we have been meeting with the selectmen to discuss, you know, what may be coming forth from their end of the town, what we may be coming forth from our end.
But the meetings you had are not in conjunction with that warrant article. And
I
now,
know
how
what
do
you
you,
said.
what makes that non-binding?
Because it is non-binding.
That I've got to look up the definition of.
Okay.
I'll have to check that out on that warrant article. But I believe, in my opinion, that all of these meetings that you've been having are in total violation of what the town taxpayers have requested on the warrant article.
And also they're in violation on right to know bylaw, which, you know, really states that anything that going on in a budget way between the school and the town taxpayer, it should be public notice to the taxpayer. And you guys did not do that. Actually, in the last meeting that you guys had, you already got a minute. You know, I don't know, I really, you know, can say that the school really abides by the right to know laws. I don't think so you guys do that. And eventually, you know, if you guys, you know, train that, you are, you know, probably, you know, whatever. You know, it's a real, because I believe that whatever is going on, it should be public. Public. You're not talking about something, you know, inside the school per se. You're talking about taxpayer money. You're talking about everybody in town. It's a lot of people who show up today or here because they figure maybe, you know, they can get a minute and they can get everything, you know, that you guys are talking about, stuff like that. Which, another thing I suggest to the principal or to anybody, that, you know, the school site, it's the worst I ever seen in my life. The school internet site, for minutes, for, you know, anything that what's going on in school, it seems like, you know, you guys don't want to share with anybody, whatever it is. And, you know, I made copies of everything, and, you know, it's really unacceptable. I hope you guys change. You know, thank you very much.
I'm just going to have a quick response here. I agree with that we should have
in accordance with the warrant article and the way it's stated, that it should be full committees, full boards. I understand what Ann is saying, and I think Skylar also takes the position that it's non-binding for the school board and for the select board. However, because the people have asked us, maybe we need to step forward and do that, what they requested. I also think that representation from those boards here at this committee, or at this, not committee, excuse me, at this meeting, there has to be action by the school board and by the select board appointing their representation. And I don't know if that has happened either. So, yeah, I think we'll all discuss it more. So, we have basically discussed it before at the previous meeting about what it means, what the warrant article actually means, and we all have different thoughts on that.
The school board's discussed it at great length too, because we want to be helpful, but we also have discussed it too, so.
My initial take is the same as what you guys are saying about the full boards and whatever, but I mean, it is, I think, I also have to agree that I believe legally because of the structure in the state of New Hampshire and the election of the school board and the select board, that it is non-binding. But Littleton has a habit of listening to the voters, and we're probably in a bit of an evolutionary process, but here today, I think it's another step forward. I mean, this is a meeting we've been looking for over 10 years, and it's finally happening. And I guess at this point now, I think we probably should just move on with this meeting, and we can certainly discuss that aspect of it more into the future. But to make today as productive a day as possible, I think we need to at least accomplish what we can today.
In your opinion, on, be the chairman of the budgeting, the town budgeting, don't you think that the school should be more transparent towards the taxpayer about everything that are going on between spending and money they need and stuff like that? Or this is something, just it's in between, the two entities and forget about. That's what you think?
I'm in favor of transparency all the time and cooperation all the time. And I think obviously what happened last year shows you what happens when we don't talk to each other, and obviously we want to avoid that situation again. So, thank you. I would hope we could move on now and
Sure.
be productive.
Do the right thing.
Well, I think one of the points is that the school board and the select board and the budget committee recognize the warrant article and have been acting in the spirit of the warrant article. As has been said previously, whether or not it's legally binding, there are some opinions that it is, there are some that we've received that it is not. I did invite the other two selectmen. They RSVP'd, no thank you, go ahead. If you'd like it to be more formal in terms of appointing me as the representative, we can certainly do that. They were invited and are satisfied that one of us is here in the spirit of the cooperation of the warrant, which is what we're trying to do.
And the school board has also been all invited. You see 3 of us here today. The other 2 are right up.
So without further input, unless there is some, actually, Ann and I are co-chairing, if you want to call it that.
Thank you.
We'll move into the agenda, unless there's someone else with some public input.
Just one more quick question. Are the minutes being taken this meeting?
Yes.
Are the minutes of the previous 2 meetings?
Yes.
Or where are they posted?
Were they hanging at the
Where are they posted so the public can see them?
They don't have. I come over here to get the minutes.
No,
They don't
no,
have.
they
Right?
won't, Ralph. They will be, but they were not, to answer your question.
Are they going to be put on the website?
Of course.
Okay.
Thank you,
All
sir.
right, thank
No
you.
problem.
Okay.
Any further public
No,
input?
all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're into the work session, and item A on the agenda is actions taken since last tax rate / school in town.
Okay.
This, I believe, is yours, Steve.
Yeah, I had just a few things. What I tried, and I don't want to take a lot of your time, but I think, you know, the budget and tax world changed for a lot of us come November last year, and I think that's part of why we're here this year. We don't want to see a repeat of surprises, although I think that, as all of you know who work with the budget, that a lot of there's things that happen, valuation that affects the tax rate greatly, but also the decisions we make with spending and budgets, of course, is a huge factor as well. So, I guess I wanted to just take a bit of time and not, you know, just highlight a few of the things that the board worked through as we prepared the budget year that we're in right now. After we got the news, especially got the news of the tax rates last year. We proposed a budget cut of about a little over $600,000, and at least a reduction from the previous year's general fund spending of a little over $600,000. That was on top of about $500,000 in increased costs, which I outlined there. Our health insurance going up a couple $100,000, the state requiring us to pay more into the retirement system, and then, of course, the professionally negotiated agreement. So our challenge last year as a board, as an organization, within the tax situation we found ourselves in November, with people's tax rates going up $1.72 thereabouts, which is, again, shook us all. We did address our budget for 17-18. We did the things that at least we could do in the short term and the longer term to help address that, scrutinize expenditures and so on. We did reduce staff in our two buildings. Our initial proposal would have reduced staff a little over 10 FTE, or about 10 FTE. Part of that initial proposal was voted down in the deliberative session. So we ended up, instead of cutting a little over $600,000 from our budget, we cut about $300,000 from our budget. In so doing, though, we did reduce almost 6 FTE staff. Ralph often asks, "What's your student-teacher ratio?" It's a great question to propose, and that's, you know, this obviously, depending on what our enrollment does this year, I would expect to see some change in the student-teacher ratio by this action alone. I'll also point out that we did reduce administrative staff. There's been over the past few months, there's been many questions about our choices and why we cut this or why do we do that. But I think, as I pointed out on numerous occasions, when you go down this road and you start reducing the budget and you start cutting classroom teachers or not replacing classroom teachers who leave, if all parts of the operation are open to cuts, that includes administration. And oftentimes administration is the last thing cut. In this case, it was one among the very first cuts that we made, although it took us some time to determine how that would look. So those are highlights of the things that we did immediately as we prepared the current year budget in light of the tax situation we found ourselves in back in November. And we run on different budget years and things are a little bit different, but I did want, as I shared before, I know there's some things the town has done as well to help address that.
With the town, as far as actions taken, we are working under our awarded budget and doing so as we can.
Some of the items that we've tried to assist in getting the best rates possible, of course, is the propane, which heats a majority of the town buildings. Our propane rate this year is $1.30 per gallon for the town. And we included the school on our bid, and the school has a different situation with their propane supplier. We've also included the school with our fuel bid this year. And at this time, we got pre-buy for $1.84.9 per gallon, which is a very good rate because I'm hearing most of the other people that are going out are getting like $2.10 plus per gallon. So there's been some effort there to try to keep the costs down.
Pre-hurricane buy, I'm told, which was fortunate.
We've also gone out and looked at different auditors and had signed an agreement to go with an auditing firm that's going to cost about $5,000 less per year, which even though the audit is required, just that savings alone benefits us because we signed a 5-year agreement with them. So overall, there is going to be a reduction there, and we're looking at cost constantly, trying to find the best, trying to find what will work for the town at the minimal cost. Contracts are being looked at as far as when we go out with construction companies to make sure they're following the guidelines and the deadlines that are in those agreements to make sure we're getting the best for the taxpayers.
You know, we've done the same thing with assessing contracts, our 5-year assessing contracts, our contractors who operate our wastewater treatment plant. Any contract we can, we try to get it exposed to the market to ensure we're getting the best thing for the taxpayers.
It goes on and on and on. We're looking at bids from other people to handle the transfer station. Is it going to happen? Who knows? But you don't know until you solicit bids. We don't have any figures in yet. But as Andrew said, it's ongoing, it's constant. Trying to deliver the services that we provide, that we want to provide, the taxpayers want for the least amount of money, and it's just part of doing business. We don't have hard numbers on a lot of that because it's up to bid. Just the other day we had SNS and we gave a presentation at the select board meeting, and there's a whole bunch of cybersecurity stuff that needs to be done. And some of it is using Ralph's favorite phrase, needs versus wants. They are putting together a proposal for us. We will take a look at it and take a look at the needs versus the wants and act accordingly, and it will become part of the new bill. That's just another example that's constantly going on.
And there's also a constant effort to try to be a good community partner with an economic development. You know, valuations are such a large part of the tax rate, so we actively try to cultivate relationships and work with interested businesses or individuals interested in starting a business to help them through the bureaucratic process and connect to potential resources to help them set up and work. So, the more that we do, the better valuation we hopefully can get and diversify it a bit. Right now, we're so dependent on the utilities values in Littleton. So,
one other item that was handed out to the people up here is the town's overview, just an overview of the budget. And this is as of the end of August, and by calculations, we should be at 67%. Currently, we're just under 65%. So as far as budgeting, we try to stay as close to target as we can. And when we do our budgeting, we try to estimate as close as we can with what the needs are of the town and stay within those numbers.
That's about it for actions taken for the town. And the next topic on your agenda is B, which is the projected assessed valuation and update from the town.
So we've filed and been granted an MS1 extension. Our utilities valuations are getting close to being set. We should have those, I would think, within the next 2 weeks. The interesting thing is the New Hampshire Department of Revenue sets the MS1 date, and they don't even have their utilities assessments done yet, so just kind of an unrealistic timeline. But we should have our utilities values within 2 weeks.
The town, you explained this a little bit, Andrew, the town valuation last year, because of the adjustment that we had to make with the dam, which actually backed up. So what was the actual town valuation at that
The total from the MS1 value?
for last year?
Yes. 2016,
Yeah.
Just tell us where to look.
or if you look under proof of rate on this sheet that I had passed out, the evaluation without utilities is 4 million, yeah,
490
Yeah.
million, so.
487, right?
479.
479, right here.
Yes. And the, with the utilities, it's 721.
But last year, we collected taxes on, not 721, we collected taxes on 700 roughly, because of having to give the credit for the previous year, is that?
So the 721 would have included that. So with the Moore Dam valuation,
Yeah.
we had them at, it was over 200 million.
Yeah.
And for 2015,
Yeah.
and then for 2016, what we did was decide on what the value would be. It was a kind of an average between the two. So, if it was at I think it was at 230 million. Decided that 192 for the 2 years was more accurate, and instead of doing a credit or anything like that, what they did was put the value at 178 for 2016, so it was an averaging of 2 years at about a one, I believe it was 192 million.
Okay, so the $14 million difference, is that 14 in the 721? Or did we collect taxes on 721 less 14 million? Because we basically gave, what we collected the previous year that we agreed to give back, we collected less in 2016.
From then, yes,
So-
but that would be included in the number on the report.
Yeah, so the 721,
Is all inclusive of the total valuation of the dam for that year, about the 192 million.
at the 192.
Yeah.
That's right. So we didn't collect taxes on 721. We collected taxes last year on 721 less 14 million.
No, that number includes that we got reduced amount.
Okay, but what figure is in the 721? The 192 or the 178?
178.
178.
Okay, which figure is going to be in this year's?
That's what we'll be releasing soon.
Okay, so it's not necessarily going back to the 192.
Right.
Yeah, okay, but the 178 is, I don't want to belabor, but I mean, it is obviously an important point. So the 178 is in that. Okay.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the projected pre-audit ending school fund balances.
Okay, real quick, just a history of retained funds over the past 8 or 9 years. I think you can see that's fluctuated a little bit. Most recently, 545, 766. 2013 is one that's a little bit different because the 2.5% retained funds from the general fund were not retained, so that made that year a little bit different. In all these other years, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, but I think there was retained funds of it from the 2.5%.
The 443 was in 2013.
Yeah.
That was the amount returned. There had been,
Okay.
we were authorized to retain 229,
Okay.
and did not.
Okay.
So
So
the
that's
fund,
not
the fund
quite-
balance of 443 was retained. So that
Return.
was returned, thank you. Yes.
Yeah, return.
Steve, back up
Yeah.
so the figure,
Mhm.
the 2016
Yeah.
figure, okay, that's what the figure was June 30th, 2016.
Yes,
Okay, and the 2017 is
Uh-huh.
is the 2B. June 30th, 2017
Yeah,
is the 2B.
exactly, what we're working on now, exactly.
So, can I just clarify, in 2014, you had 746,533. Was that the year that we actually set up the 2.5%, the 229,113? Was that the same year?
The authorization was approved in our fiscal 2013.
2013,
So 229 could have been retained,
but
That was
it was
not.
retained in 2014.
but an amount was retained in 2014, so that's net of retention, yes.
Okay, so actually we had undesignated fund balance of over $1 million in the 2014, but we retained the 229,113.
It wasn't 229, but it's somewhere in that.
Something like that.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so.
But it was a big number.
So I'm just
Yeah,
saying that,
it's a
that we
big
had
number.
an undesignated
Yeah.
fund balance of over $1 million in that year.
But also, if I remember correctly, there was some audit changes within that year too, that increased that.
If I remember correctly, in 2015, the school retained 249,664 and returned the 652,667. And in 2016, you retained 270,174
It's
and
249.
returned, or 149?
249.
249.
And
The
2016.
270 is the maximum for fiscal 17.
Okay.
So how much was that? Can you repeat that, please?
249.
249,174?
249,664.
Okay, 664, okay, and 2015 was 249.
I had 2015, 249,664,
Okay,
because that's what,
all right,
the year difference, I think, is what we're looking at.
all right.
But the last couple of years, it's been close to 250,000.
Exactly.
And then last year was 2016?
Well, I had, last year's 270, 174.
Okay, that's for fiscal 17. Yes.
But that's the billing that we did in 2016.
Yes, that's when
That's
DRA
Yeah.
determines the cap.
Yeah.
But it was for the fiscal year ended 6/30/2017. And what was retained in 2016 was the 249.
Right, that was kind of a year difference, yeah.
Indeed.
It's
Yeah.
very confusing,
Our
yes,
year splits the calendar year.
yeah, yeah.
Any other questions on that page before?
Well, actually, I do. If you could open up your question real quick, so your 545 is what you gave us back in order to reduce or increase our taxes by $1.69 per thousand, correct?
Right.
Okay. So the best math I can figure is if 721 is the equalized value equals $1. Am I correct so far? $721,000 worth of expenditures equal $1 on the tax rate. So you're saying, I think we were 726 the year previous before that got adjusted. Am I right? I don't have that sheet in front of me. I'm doing it by memory.
Right.
So 726. So Andrew, look at me for a second. So well, I want you to pay attention to this. Got to move it here. We're in a meeting.
I'm surprised you
Okay,
didn't go
come
like
on. So 726 is the number. You're negotiating. You're going to tell us in 2 weeks. We might be at 726 again. We might be at 730. If we equal that number in fast math at $1.69, you've got to meet the 545 to get back to zero.
We do.
So you owe me 545 to begin with to get my tax rate,
Correct.
just to stay at $1.69
Correct.
of an increase that you increased last year.
Right.
If you can return back my $1.69 plus meet that bar of 545 in order to do that, you're $2.2 million you need to come up with. Whether you can or you can't, let's talk about what is on the table
Yep.
of the math before you start. So you're 2.268 before you even go forward. So quick math is, you think you have 3 more million, maybe 6 more million? Can someone do the math real quick, because my calculator won't do that, to what that would do? Because that lowers your 2.26 million that you need to come up with. Follow me? If you increase that equalized value to, say, 730 to give them fairness, I'll figure it out. Am I good? That's, as long as we're, Tom, am I, and Karen, am I on the same page with you, what I just said? Do you guys agree? Am I wrong?
Say it slowly one more time.
Yeah,
All right.
you know, warp speed.
So-
Say slowly for the first
Yeah,
So $545,000 is what you gave.
that just keeps it as it is, assuming the evaluation doesn't change and the revenue doesn't change.
Yeah, so you gave us that money
Yeah.
back, our money back that
Yep.
we gave you.
Yep.
We didn't expend that. So
Right.
if you go back to ground zero to set the tax rate for this year, that you ended in July 30th or June 30th.
Right.
July 1, you have to give me back $545,000 to keep that from going up anymore.
To keep that tax rate at $1.69 above the previous year.
Okay.
That's assuming my net assessment is the same.
Assuming
We're just,
all else
we're
equal.
rough assumptions, we're all on the same
Yep,
page. So
yep.
now, at $721,000 equals $1 on my tax rate.
Yep.
I'm saying that you need to come up with $1.7 million in addition to the $545,000 that you already gave us back to get to zero. To get us back to
get
where
it back to where it was
we were.
before November 16.
So that equals $2.2 million. You with me?
You have to also remember that revenues fluctuate.
I agree, I'm saying if all things were constant, a static line, we can't even, what I'm trying to do is figure out how important that negotiation is for that and how much money's on the table. That's all I'm trying to do, and no other.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you take the tax hit we took last year, and it takes you start doing the math on what it takes to get back to pre-November 9, 2016, and it's daunting. And of course, we'll see what happens with valuation. That's part of it. That's not all of it. That's part of it. Anything else before I go to the?
And right now, as far as the June 30th, 2017 number, do we have a ballpark figure on that, or are we still too early for
No,
it?
we got it. Next slide.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Here it is.
See into the future.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Okay, these just a quick, just a rundown. Again, these are the unencumbered funds, if you will, undesignated funds that are sitting there that we will be using for those purposes. That's not totally true, right, Tom? Because we got a couple of expenses already that I'll go over in a minute. They'll be charged off the facilities and equipment. But anyway, I just again I think we need to put this out there. People have asked for these numbers. Anyone is perfectly encouraged at any time to call up Tom and say, where are they? What are the fund balances? What are you sitting on? What money is there? That's a legitimate question to ask. And I think when you start looking at the numbers that we just started talking about, you start looking at the tax rate, you start talking about the budget, it's a legitimate question to ask. So how many dollars is the school sitting on an account or have an account? What's appropriate is a matter of discussion. But this is what it is. Some of those we have a lot of discretion over, others we have less discretion. The big account, vocational, we have a little less discretion on that is my understanding of it, because those funds are raised at least in part through our Region 3 partners. And that the Region 3 partners, of course, are, I think, again, a good example of what we're doing regionally here to pull students from other areas into sharing programs. But, so that's not totally under our control, but the other funds certainly are. A little money with fuel allocation, special education. Again, and I think one of the things that in one of our meetings we talked a little bit about this idea that we need to build a budget and not build a budget that's responsible, but not ask the town to front load all the potential disasters we might run into. So we may be backloading in the future. I hope not. But we are trying to reduce, as you'll see, and I think you'll see in next year's budget, we are trying to reduce the amount of money we're asking for up front. That does give us less margin to work with. Special education, though, that we can easily spend that on one student in a year. But So we have to maintain something that's prudent, but at the same time not overly aggressive in terms of the taxation piece. Anybody have any questions about that page before I move off of it? Okay. Okay, this is what we spent some of those funds on. Again, I think it's important for people to see that we're not just sitting on those capital funds. We are doing things with them. Last year we put a roof on Lakeway. We were supposed to put another roof on Lakeway this year, by the way. We chose not to. There's a 20-year-old roof sitting over there. It's not leaking, so we're not going to replace a non-leaking 20-year-old roof, even though the book says it's about time. But this was a roof that was leaking, did need to be fixed. We did some renovations of the restrooms up at the middle school, high school, and then we replaced the roof at the middle school, high school gym up here on the hill just recently, actually. That came out of the Facilities Capital Reserve Fund. Equipment, we've hit this fund pretty hard. You see the playground equipment, this was last year, Lakeway unit ventilators. There's a typo there, my apologies. We can't count the roof twice. High school gym roof came out of facilities, not equipment. My apologies. But we did replace the air conditioning, one of the units at the gym, and we did spend about $45,000 on unit ventilators. Unit ventilators are those heating units that are in the original edition of Lakeway, when Lakeway School was originally built back in the early 1950s. Each room had its own little unit where the hot water comes in and circulates, and it has its own fan system, its own climate control system. Every one of those original rooms has one of those, and they die. Little by little they die. Every one of those that we replace has to be custom ordered, custom made, at about $10,000 a piece, because they don't exist in stock anymore. But that's one of the things that we deal with, again, to make sure that the rooms are heated and comfortable. What's likely, at least on the near horizon, we know we have an air conditioner unit now that's also failed at the high school in the cafeteria. Most days the cafeteria probably doesn't need the air conditioning, but there's times, especially when we have community meetings and early in the year, late in the year, that it is important. Anyone who watched me present last June when it was 90 degrees outside knows how hot it gets in the cafeteria. I can speak to that. And then the aforementioned unit ventilators, Lakeway. Again, we have to continue to at least anticipate we may have to address those as well. And there's a myriad of other things that could come up. Those are the two biggies I know that are on the horizon right now. Okay, so here we go. And again, Tom is our financial our BA and can provide more detail, more information on these. But I did want to give you a sense of where we are. Right now, we're sitting at about $620,789 with the following adjustments. A couple of warrant articles that were voted in back in March, $30,000 to go back into the equipment fund, $50,000 back into the facilities. Again, I showed you those fund balances, showed you what we've been spending, what we've been spending it on, to show you that that kind of keeps us with a little bit of margin there. That leaves us about $547.89, an audit adjustment. Part of our food service agreement is a transfer back to food service. Leaves us with a little over $500,000, $504,735 to return. Okay, that is with before any other retention. If we would retain the maximum general fund, that's $271.74. That obviously would reduce the 504 significantly, and also put it well below the return funds of $545,766 from the previous year. Now, the effects of our budget cuts will will be felt, which is a good thing. I do want to point that out, that we did ask for a little bit less in the general fund budget, to the tune of about $300,000. So that also, of course, will have an effect on the tax rate that will be coming up shortly.
Steve, just for a second, so the 2.5% retention from last year
Yes.
is in the 504?
Yes.
It's in the, okay.
It's in the
You don't
504.
carry that as a separate item, that goes back into the,
It's what's sitting there with all those other adjustments at this point.
yeah, okay.
It's what's in play.
Yeah.
So you don't, so it isn't.
It's not 504, and then we also have the 2.5%. The 504 has the two, it has that retained funds in it.
In it, yeah, okay.
Yes.
I didn't know whether that might have been carried as a separate,
Yeah.
but it doesn't run parallel. So at the beginning of the year, once it's retained, that goes back into your fund balance if you were to start the year. And then if you're gonna retain it again, you're gonna take it back out at the end.
Mathematically,
Yeah.
the effect on the year is the difference between retained in year one and
Yeah,
retained in year two.
Yeah, but in the, but obviously, so we know for sure, but that, what we retained last year, the 2.5%, whatever that figure was, 240, whatever, that is in the 504,000 you're showing us there now.
So, the other question the cut in the budget will lower the taxes by 300,000. So, on that $1.69, it's gonna go to reduce, that 300,000 is gonna go to reduce that $1.69?
It will reduce what we have to raise in taxes by 300,000.
Wait a minute, that's not
Right.
clear. No, hold
Okay.
on. She's asking you a different question.
Oh, okay.
And we need point of order here for this 504,000. That 504 that Steve asked is before the board votes for the 270.
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly.
So take that, subtract that, 270 from 504,
Right.
add that to the 545, right? That you gotta make of the bar, $545,000.
Yep.
That's 47 cents per thousand based on 721.
Yep.
So a projection right there, if this board votes to withdraw 270,000 from that 504, that vote will cost me 47 cents per thousand on top of the $1.69
Yep.
last year. If that equalized value doesn't go up anymore, so that's a little bit in play.
Right.
So that's like 219, 220
Yep.
in 24 months. You're responsible for my tax bill going up.
And
That's
it
serious.
wipes out the
24
300,000.
months. That's a big, big number,
And it wipes out the $300,000 budget cut.
right?
Well,
And I see how you're accounting for that, so where Diane was going with that,
Yeah.
and I agree.
Sorry,
That's
I missed-
going forward, but not in the tax rate that's going to be set, that we're gonna get this
Right.
Christmas.
Right.
That's not gonna be affected, that's a next cycle.
No, that is in the rate that will be set.
the
What-
three-
Right, but we're not
Board-
deducting it, sorry, we're not deducting it.
Whatever the
from
board
cost.
votes to retain
Right,
or not
right, whatever they
will
choose.
affect the revised revenue, which is used in the calculation.
Right, you're right.
A lot of ifs.
Did that?
Lot of ifs, but
Oh,
worst
wow.
case scenario with just 2.5% of retaining money, it's still, you're talking the difference between 47 and 41 cent here. We're a very small vig that you're
Yes.
working on, and it's only up because you don't have enough money. Even if you look at that
Right.
504, you can't even get back to ground zero. And I'm not saying that as a disrespectful statement, that's just reality.
Reality.
You're at 504, you couldn't even get back to zero if you had whatever. So
You're right.
you get your hands tied behind your back because of the equalized value that wasn't adjusted in the budget. So if the budget would have helped to have that number ahead of time last year, and you would have been able to adjust that budget so we wouldn't have been in that.
Been very helpful.
We wouldn't be here, so.
But we're still in the same place today because we don't know till what, late October, November.
But the point of VIG is 6 million, 10 million at most that we're talking about here. So thank God it isn't, we're not gonna see this happen again. What happened last year, we're not gonna see happen again because there's much more dialogue going on here.
Yeah.
Partially.
Any other questions on that stuff? Yeah.
And the other fund balances that we have as far as facility maintenance, et cetera.
Right.
Now, are those funds in play at this point in time? Or those would only be in play in the upcoming budget?
No, those funds that have been used offset monies that could have been used from the general fund.
That's right. I mean, but are there any more of those funds that could be used against your June 30th, 2017
Right.
figures? Or are we past that?
You're past that.
Okay, but the option, but looking forward.
But the board did authorize the use of the monies that were expended this summer.
That you listed, that's
For
right.
the roof, and for the
Yeah.
HVAC and the other things, from those funds rather than going from general fund. And quite frankly, it could have been worked either year's general fund, but the board elected to use capital reserve funds for it.
Yeah, to help out on this fall as opposed to the following fall.
I've got a question. And my memory's nowhere near what it used to be, so remind me, was there an article last year for the gym roof, the high school gym roof? Was there a warrant article that allowed the high school gym roof to be replaced?
No,
It wasn't, okay.
No.
I thought it was a warrant
We
article.
did talk about it.
yeah,
There's a warrant article.
We did talk in meetings about it, so maybe that's what you're thinking.
Okay,
yeah, ultimately, we decided to use the existing
okay.
funds that we had. And again, in all fairness, not to ask for more, but we did ask for 50,000 be put back into that capital fund, which basically was what the gym roof cost. So there wasn't an article specific to that, but the effect of the warrant article had that effect.
Even in
As
that.
it were, yeah, exactly.
So this, on the capital reserve fund balance sheet, the
Yeah.
137,000 is prior to,
That's net of the current transactions.
okay, all right.
Yeah, we have a little, yeah. We've done a couple of things that'll have to be paid for out of that balance. We'll look at here in just a second, and then we'll get.
I just wonder. So just to make it really clear.
Yeah, this gym roof, right? That's not reflected in the 137,000.
Well, it's offset by
By the
the
warrant.
warrant article.
So it's there, okay.
Okay, well, that was
Yeah, that's
part
right.
of my question.
Yeah, because 137, you're gonna
So,
write a check
so
for
now
50
you
and.
have
yeah.
$87,000 in there actually. And
No,
your
so
hope.
I'm back to
wait
137.
a minute.
Yeah.
87,000 prior to transferring the funds from the undesignated fund balance back in there, the 50,000 for the warrant article.
Right.
So you still have, without transferring the
Mhm.
funds, the 50,000, you would have 87,000 in there. I'm wondering if the board would consider to not do that unless it's too late to not do that, in order to bring up the amount returned to the town up $50,000 instead of having it less $50,000.
To get back to the 545.
Yes, right.
Since it was voted by warrant article, I don't know that the board has that option.
They have an option. I believe they have an
I
option.
don't think we can.
So that one we have to follow, that one we have to.
Do you have to follow that? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if we
All
have
right,
an
we-
option.
I think we do.
You think we have to?
If you, yeah,
Okay.
it's a binding article. So you could look at it from another angle and say that, you know, we're gonna take offset that with some other, monies given back, like, discussed.
Which one, Andrew, you say is
But
binding?
if the voters voted to put $50,000 into the capital reserve fund, then that would be a binding.
Okay.
Yeah.
action.
Wasn't it authorized the school to put up to 50,000?
Yeah.
It wasn't 50, yeah, so.
Oh, that's a good
If
question.
it says up to, there's some leeway.
Yeah, that's different. You're right.
49,999.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to the presentation here. So we talked about this a little bit already. I mean, this is what kind of where the board, town, community is at, is how do you, what are the choices, what are the options, what does it look like? You know, if we retain all funds, that means that the capital funds, the 2.5%, and there's your tax effect. It's a big pop. It's 50 cents, not quite, that 48 cents or whatever. That assuming all else being equal, if we retain only the capital funds, that's in the 80,000. That's the 30 for equipment and 50 for facilities. Then you're getting down to closer to that magic number, at least to break even with last year. And then of course the general fund separately, but it does obviously have an effect on the tax rate as well. And these are just a few. There's many other scenarios, anywhere from, looking at those warrant articles, if it says up to, the board may choose to look at that as well. There's a lot of different options here.
And that is the language in the warrant article.
Up to, so there you go. So that's different. That's it. And so it does obviously indicate a rate and some discretion.
And everything that we're talking about here, though, is still, basically we're talking about a one-year Band-Aid. Because, whatever we do, if you don't retain the 270, then there's no 270 to come back next year. And so any of these adjustments we're talking about making is just to make this year's tax rate more acceptable. But in many ways, doing this also then sets next year's tax rate up for failure, unless you can really have some other affirmative action that changes the numbers.
Yep. You hope the evaluation goes up, or you have to cut expenses, or you have to raise taxes. Not too complicated, is it, Art?
Still in the numbers.
We're not like Washington. We can't print money or borrow overseas.
At least not legally.
Okay, so projected revenue, was that next?
There, and actually, the projected revenue, Tom will speak to that a little bit. I think just to talk about, and again, we kind of, sometimes that gets pushed to the side, but it obviously has an effect on where we end up if we build a budget based on this set of revenue assumptions and then we get this. We just want to bring that I guess into the mix just a little bit. Anything, I guess?
That's in the numbers that have already been there.
Yeah. Factored in.
I'm going to say about $30,000 increase in revenue.
Potential.
That will be reported in revised revenue. The board approves the work that's been done.
For June 30th, 2017?
That's actually for the new year coming, for the year that we're in now. Okay, but rather than sticking with whatever revenue was calculated back during the budget season, okay, when we do revise that.
Okay. In the current budget.
And then that will also include whatever fund balance is in there. That's part of how the fund balance reduces the amount to be raised by taxes. It becomes a revenue source in the new year.
Yeah, but I think that's the other piece, and it's variable as well. I do think there are things that we do. We're fortunate. Again, I go back to Region 3. I go back to our regional agreement with our partners here in neighboring SAUs, and that's a big revenue source for us. Those students that come in, we have 120 kids coming in. We're sending around 15 out. So those are the kind of things that I think we're in position to take more advantage of, and both ways. Some of our kids attending other schools as well, but I think those are the things we need to do regionally to maximize resources.
So, can I go back to one sheet here on the possible impact on the taxes?
Sure.
There is $63,000 transfer to the food service. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
That's actually to get to an undesignated fund balance. Food service needs to be made whole, and at this point, the maximum, the contracted loss that we have is about $53,000. Plus, we have some repairs and other utilities that aren't the responsibility of Fitzwell. So add those together, it's about $63,000 I need to transfer to food service to bring them to zero. That's a requirement of the National School Lunch Program, is that food service not be in the deficit.
And the 53,000 of it is basically that, and this isn't necessarily wrong, but I mean that we contracted out for X amount of money, and we know our income is gonna be this, and we know there's always gonna be a projected shortfall, and this year was $53,000.
And actually, the shortfall was greater than that, but we have a contracted cap.
How is it going to be addressed in the future? Just any changes to the food service programs or not involved?
I have a contracted cap for this year also, which is within a couple of $100 of last year's.
Yeah, I think Diane, that we certainly will look at vendors, as we always have. You always have to look at everything, bringing it back in-house. There's a reason, I wasn't here, but there's a reason the school chose to go outside. I'm assuming we were losing a fairly significant amount of money at that point also.
It's $100,000 the last year.
About 100,000. Yeah, I mean, it's not nice to talk about writing a check for 63,000 to cover food service losses until you see that when we did it ourselves, it was 100. But yeah, you obviously want to get it back to zero. Obviously, we have those typically aren't those. I can't speak for other districts here. I know other districts I've been associated with. Food service is usually something that is subsidized one way or another at various levels. By the way,
We didn't have the personnel to satisfy the National School Lunch Program requirements in terms of menus and composition and food choices and all those things that require dietitians.
But it's just like
we don't own any of those. So.
But it's just like anything else. We owe everybody the due diligence to see if there's a better way. And insurance. We don't even talk about insurance. When we talk about insurance, a lot of it do budgets and everything else going forward. But
that is certainly something that
we need to look.
you need to look at, especially since you have two negotiations coming up. So
It'll be a busy few months.
Okay, well, that takes us to possible impacts of all the above on the tax rate.
We kind of went through that.
Yeah, and that's kind of that's the scenarios, the impacts.
Yep.
That's all. I got one more slide. That's just again that this is something. This is something that will be board action, open board action. We certainly will invite people to come and be a part of that discussion. That has to happen in the very near future. So that, by that I mean in the next few board meetings for sure. When we work with the state to see when we need to take that final action. But
to summarize,
that will be a good discussion. Yes.
But to summarize things, and I already
Yes.
and I think we've already kind of hit all those parameters as we were discussing this. But if the school opts not to retain the 270, and if we're able to get a little bit more creative with some of the warrant articles that were passed last spring, as far as that $50,000, I mean, the sum total of those two situations,
right.
The best sum total of those two situations, I say best, in terms of producing dollars, would be to keep us even at the 176, given the tax base staying the same.
There are two numbers that I need in order to answer that question. Tom, can you give me the 15-16 local school tax rate and the 14-15 local school tax rate, or anybody who has it? Go ahead, Karen.
The 2015 local rate I have is $11.55.
Okay.
And the 16 was $13.32.
$13.32?
Yes,
But again, that's
local.
That's against different assessed values though.
I understand.
What you really need is the assessment.
I'm not comparing it against equalized value. I'm using it as a point of reference. The person who lives on Hilltop Road that's paying $13.32 based on their value of their home, not the equalized value of the town. I understand, and you're right, Tom. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying that this is a tax rate setting that you're discussing that affects someone's bill that comes in December. So now, They saw 1155, this is where I'm answering your question, Steve, is they saw 1155, then they went up to 1332. We're about to answer Steve's question, add 41 cents per thousand to the 1332 if all things stay equal. So we will be hovering just under, for $14, just under $14 at the localized school level per thousand, if all things stay equal. That's the answer to that question, Steve.
So I guess, so to frame the issue, whatever action there is to be taken this year will either maintain last year's situation or possibly ameliorate it a little bit. But it'll be a Band-Aid for this year and will make the challenge for next year even greater.
So in fairness to the school board, they need to be defended in this because they're about to, you're right, they're about to head to uncharted waters that will make it even more expensive. What is important that I would send as a message to the school board is someone who escrows their home taxes. I don't want you to scissor my tax rate because my escrow rate jumps through the roof. Millie, you know this better than anybody here, that my escrow tax bill adjusts in April after the rate was set. They pay the deviation in it, and now I have to pay backwards and forward. Now, if you drop that in the next year, my home mortgage jumps all over the place. You're affecting the economic impact of homes where people are borrowing money for cars, for vacations and things, because you're taking money and you're putting it back on the table, and they're not getting a constant development of what their home budget can afford. Right. So in fairness to the school board, you kind of need to look at balancing how much you're going to return this year to try to just get to zero, and then look at how much you don't spike the rate again next year, but don't drop it through the floor. Even this out for us. I don't want it going up, don't get me wrong, I don't want you spending more money, but I don't want up and down because you're really making an economic headache for us.
Yeah, but regardless of what we do this year, we're not going to drop it.
No,
unless
it's impossible.
Unless we did something way off.
The money's already, the
that's
cash
right.
flows, it's done.
So
Valuation.
right, but what I'm saying, given our bet, well, yes, Steve, unless that happens, that's right.
I know, but that's part of what got us here.
Right, but
not all of it.
In the realistic situation, our best efforts and cooperation come together. Mm-hmm. We're going to keep the tax rate at the same as what it was last year, and in doing so, you're going to raise the bar, if you would, for your challenges to keep the tax rate the same next year, because you're not going to have you're going to have at least $300,000 less to give back next year than what you have this year.
So to put that in numbers, you'd almost be better off, as much as I don't want my tax bill to go up anymore, is to raise it by 8, 9, 10 cents per thousand this year, feather that into next year, and let the reductions that's going to have to be made at the school board level or school level to catch up and even this out. Because otherwise, if you bring back zero, then you go up next year, then you go down the year previous because the superintendent comes forward and says, hey, I found $3 million to reduce this budget by. Then you've got my home over 48 months and my home mortgage all over the place.
The way the numbers are falling, the district is within striking distance of raising exactly the same amount of money this year as last year. So the difference in rate is going to be strictly the difference in assessed value.
I mean, would you be suggesting that, let's say there was a decline that impact the tax rate, that the fund balances be built up and then feather the application of that back in towards the tax rate over a period of years to create tax stabilization?
So that's clumsy because you don't have a vehicle to manage those escrow accounts and to have the trust of the taxpayers out of the gate after coming off of $1.69 and say, hey, look, I'm going to retain your $400,000 as opposed to reducing your tax rate, in which it's taxation without representation. You took my money and you're going to hold it for the future. That's a little unethical, but if there was a vehicle in the future to feather that out, that's something that should be established. I mean, we already hold on to a substantial amount of money on the school side for things that we can supplant expenditures.
I'm going to ask the question I've been begging to ask. Just for my own understanding, it really isn't a statement or anything, but the undesignated fund balance on the town side is really slender. It's very slim. And I'm wondering if last year when we hit this hiccup that we hit, if we had more money in there, if we could have softened the impact. So, of course we could. So I kind of knew that, but so shouldn't we kind of plan better for the rainy day that we had last year? And I know what Art is saying is true, we never want to raise more taxes. I think that's the reason why I'm always like badgering the school about the undesignated fund balance at the end of the year. But there is a certain responsibility to plan for a rainy day too. So we don't want it, off the charts, but which I kind of think sometimes we hit on one side, but we can't have it as slender as it is on the other side. So I don't know. I don't know what the best way forward, but I was thinking that if we had had some of that in, that we would have been able to address it a little bit better and not hit spike.
Had we had a higher balance last year, we could have softened the impact more than we did. We did use some of it.
Yes.
And got it to its precarious level. Should there be surplus funds to deal with this year, I think the board has to look at building up that level as well as looking at what it does to the tax rate. My guess is that it'll be a give and take, some of both, if that situation presents itself. If it doesn't, it's moved.
I just know that in the past, on the town side, we used the undesignated fund balance to offset a lot of the things in the warrant articles. And to me, there's another way of addressing things in the warrant articles, and we don't have it on the chart today, but we'll have it for the October, what the proposed warrant articles were for on the town side and what actually was passed by the voters, and what the difference is and what that impact would have had on the taxes. So for me, we need to just hone in on our warrant articles better and really have the full reality of what that spending is going to be. And then, we take it out of the undesignated fund balance. And I'm thinking that we've kind of got ourselves into a pickle here in some ways. We just need to look at the whole thing altogether.
Well, the other reality of the whole thing is if we sit here at these meetings, these three groups, and agonize over the tax rate and so forth, and we all heard last fall the strong objection to the tax rate increase, and yet in March the voters passed all the warrant articles.
I totally understand that. They didn't pass all the warrant articles. There were a few that weren't passed.
Yeah,
but
the
I also
zoning
think
didn't pass, and one other, I believe. The zoning was no money.
I don't think that the voters really sit down and say what is what. I think that really has to come from the leadership. Period. I'm sorry. That's my opinion.
No, it is. That's a point well made. I mean, it is interesting. Obviously, Littleton has always been a very generous town, but when you give good people good articles to vote on, you tend to, good meaning have merit, they tend to vote for them. Yeah. Even without without tabulating everything that came to the bottom line.
And we were trying to be frugal last year and went and cut the road budget, and what do we get? We get a petition warrant article for the road this year.
Yeah, the school has the same thing. If you try to cut something, somebody will petition.
What's going on?
One of the things that you also got to think about as the board members is when you put your approval on that warrant article, it says, we approve this, or we accept this, and the selectmen say, we accept this, we approve this. A lot of the taxpayers, a lot of the voters, they're not sitting in these meetings scrutinizing your numbers. They're looking at what you guys are saying is appropriate and just voting yes on it. So you've got to make sure the board members that what you say yes to is really appropriate for the town.
Another thing that I want to have is this, that we got 3,400 people that vote, during the election. If the one that they show up is just 1,000 people, that doesn't mean that the other 2,400 people, they don't vote on this particular, warrant articles that the chairman is saying about. People, if you got 1,000 people that come to vote, this is not the population of 1,000 people. 1,000 people, it's the elites that you guys have over here in Littleton. It's not the other 2,400 people, that they don't even bother to come to vote. It's a comparison that doesn't go nowhere. That's it. Little 3,400 people come to vote. And see how many warrant articles you're going to pass. 0.
Just to bring it back to the fund balance discussion and tax rate, I think that like a community education process and discussion needs to happen to find out, what's important. If tax rate stabilization is important, then honestly, we do need to look at not just the town, but is the school's fund balance adequate? And if you look at what the state recommends for the average across the state, we are so far below that. I mean, that's to the tune of almost 10% below. And if we have large fluctuations, yeah, we can totally handle that. We can plan it, and like Art was describing, feather it out. But if we, and like Art described earlier too, if we almost get addicted to putting in almost everything we can out of our fund balance, then you've got to do that much again next year just to even get to 0. And so it's almost like the half-life of this fund balance is non-sustainable.
Right, but that's driven in by the fact that both budgets are growing. It's not like the growth in the budget. You talk about feathering things out. That's okay if it's a one-time expense or one-time happening, but it's not a one-time happening. I mean, the school budget, Artie, you've always said the school is designed to grow how much a year? 750?
No, 900,000, it grows.
It came
You
down
can look at
300,000 this year.
What's that?
And it came down 300,000.
But Stephen, you're going down a slippery road. In fairness to you, you have different leadership that is, and I'll give him credit for this, is that the reduction has happened. So where I respectfully disagree with you is that the board is headed towards reducing. They just are not catching up fast enough. So it's almost as if we want to entrust that this leader is going to continue to cut at 900, $1.5 million to get us back down to feather it out. That's the only time that feather works.
But
Steve, if it doesn't, then he's gone.
Steve showed you his three big challenges, right, Steve? You had the insurance, you had the retirement, and you had the contract. And those three are $600,000
before he starts anywhere.
That's what I'm saying.
Nothing.
That's what I'm saying. So it's the feathering. I'm not against the concept, obviously, but just saying that, it's pretty hard to feather $600,000 a year.
Well, it's going to be.
And it's not like that $600,000 is a one-time happening. It's going to happen the next year, and the next year, and the next year, unless something structurally changes.
I think, in my discussion with Steve, superintendent, that different ways of looking at how to address the educational system here and multiple certifications. We changed our, what is it called, 4x4, we're not that anymore, the black scheduling. So we're in line with other school districts, maybe coordinating with them. So I'm saying this for the benefit of the newspaper as well. Mm-hmm. Those are topics that he has brought up and he has looked at, and it is a different way of addressing our needs and reducing our cost at the same time, and still giving the broad width of curriculum that we would like to give our students. So he is really trying to address a rural community, how a rural community with declining enrollments addresses the curriculum needs of those students with those other measures. So we're looking forward to hearing more at a later date.
Thank you, Diane.
Well, it's going to take cooperation. So we have a number of schools sitting within a stone's throw of each other that are going to have to continue to build on some of the cooperation that exists, but we need to go further. I keep saying Region 3, but Region 3 that's a good example of that's with our tech program of schools and communities coming together to educate their kids, and that's, you know, the model as we have it is unsustainable. And the sooner we figure that out, the better.
I believe we have completed the public portion of the agenda. Therefore, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the public portion.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.